we're all here today because AI has taken the industry by storm. And I saw the show of hands already from Sarah, but most of us have had firsthand experience with just how powerful AI can be through applications like ChatGPT. We're here today, though, because we feel like there's an even bigger opportunity for businesses like yours to leverage AI to deliver new and differentiated experiences. So what do all these brands here have in common? All of these brands have been early adopters of AI, and they're all disrupting the industries that they're in because of it. We hear a lot about brands like Google and Amazon and what they're doing with AI, but we're going to hear even more tomorrow, so make sure you tune in. The Digital Velocity breakout session will have some speakers from Google and Amazon, but you might be less familiar with some of these other industry disruptors. C3 AI is fighting climate change right now, helping businesses like yours reduce energy costs and track sustainability efforts. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got Miso Robotics, who are the inventors of Flippy and Chippy, and they're forever changing our fast food restaurant experience by using AI robots to flip burgers and fry tortilla chips. And they're doing this for businesses like White Castle and Chipotle. So as you can see, the use cases for AI go well beyond just a chat bot or a search engine, and they're going to forever change how we operate moving forward.
So if you've seen me talk before, or my usual partner, Andy Cadwell, we talk a lot about the acceleration we're going through. And I experienced this a lot as an engineer in the market. If I didn't keep my skills new, I was falling behind. And so that's something that I think in the last year has caused even a further exponential acceleration of what we were already seeing. It was already very tough to stay on top of everything that was happening by all the cloud providers, all the technology that's entering the market. Now with the explosion of things like generative AI, the top software engineers will be matched by their peers that may not have the same skill set, but are able to adopt these tools to help them achieve the same level of results. So I think that is something that you need to focus on. And also I think in the world that we live in today, the best products are the ones that focus on the consumer experience. And we've probably all seen this in our businesses, whether you're getting a checking account and the mobile app that you're using for banking is not as good as the competitors, you're going to go over to the competitor and move your checking account, right? We see it in the vehicles we purchase, we see it in the phones we buy, and everything that we do today, it really focuses on customer experience. AI is going to be our gateway to get there faster for all of us that need to transform that experience for our customer. 85%. So I know all of us have felt the pressure of the economy over the last 3 to 5 years and feel like it's going down, down, down. CEOs are still investing in things that drive the business forward and saving costs. And so AI can be a cost control measure. You may not be able to open new recs and hire new humans, but you might be able to invest in automating processes away or changing the effectiveness of your product in the market through AI that your teams are adding.
Things are changing every day. The rate of change right now is happening at an exponential rate. Like, how many people woke up this morning and saw the $4 billion investment from Amazon into Anthropic? And that was the headline this morning. So Amazon's investing in Anthropic, an OpenAI competitor, and their AI assistant that they call Claude. I'm really excited to see what happens with that. But it's hard to believe it's only been 10 months since ChatGPT launched, and a lot of things have already changed since then. The one thing that's remained consistent, though, is that businesses that adopt AI will beat their competitors by leveraging it.
So if you're not already thinking about this technology, you could easily be left behind. I think we already shared the story about Uber and how it took over a taxi market very, very quickly. You're going to constantly see these stories and see these headlines. I think most people that were using AI in their products didn't realize that generative AI would make such a big impact as it did. And that felt like it was an overnight flip. And then half the room raised their hands that they've already played with it and tried it, right? So AI will contribute 15.7 trillion. That won't necessarily be all in new goods and services. It's going to be a lot of your products in this room, right? The revenue growth you'll be able to generate through these capabilities will increase. Your company will go from $50 billion to $100 billion in revenue. While it's all happening, this has been a statistic I always share, software development market is actually increasing. So 1 trillion by 2026, again, not all new products and services. A lot of those dollars will be spent with companies like CDW that will help you add AI to your product, use AI to transform your product, and take you down that digital transformation journey in a much faster, more consistent, and repeatable way. Oh, one more statistic I want to point out. We can't go back, but there's a labor shortage, right? So there's 40 million a shortage of 40 million skilled workers as of December in 2020. It's expected to be 85 million by 2030. The only way to fill that gap, we can't train that many people to do these jobs, is to automate those jobs away or to make the people that we already have 10 times more proficient.
Skipped a little too early there, but 215 petabytes. This is the amount of data on one single double-stranded piece of DNA. This is more data than most of us have in our data center or in our cloud. And when you add that all up, 120 zettabytes is the amount of data that's in the world right now. And what's even crazier than that we're at 120 zettabytes is that 90% of that data we created in the past 2 years. And to put that in perspective, that's a 60 times increase the amount of data that we had back in 2010 when we were only at 2 zettabytes. So why should you care? You should care because your data is going to be your differentiator for AI. And foundation models can be impactful out of the box, but to be truly useful, they need access to the right data sources. And to have the right data sources to train your models on your use cases, you need to have a rock-solid data foundation. The vast majority of executives right now see AI to be the most impactful emerging technology that they'll use in their businesses that will be transforming the industries that they're in. Phil already shared the use case of Uber, but that's a great example of Uber disrupting the rideshare industry overnight, and businesses that do not adopt AI might get left behind. And should be no surprise, but businesses that do take the plunge early and adopt AI are likely to outperform their peers, especially when it comes to bringing new products to market, enhancing existing products, and just in general, optimizing their product development lifecycle.
In this next section, we're going to talk about how you can leverage AI to power your product development landscape. And what we mean by that is a lot of you may be on the IT side, you may not actually be doing product development, but there's ways that you can improve efficiencies in deploying systems, managing systems, and supporting those product teams that you're working with. And there's ways that your peers in product, if you're not in product, developing product directly, can leverage these things to accelerate their delivery of product into market and new capabilities. One of the things I wanted to share that's sci-fi-esque was this $400 billion plan for a new city in the American desert. This, to me, I never thought I would have seen something like this in my lifetime. I wouldn't even have thought of this 5 years ago as being possible. There's a lot more smarter people out there, and one of them is a billionaire that sold his company to Walmart, and he's got plans to build a 15-minute city with the cleanliness of Tokyo, the diversity of New York, and the social services of Stockholm. 150,000 acres set to house about 5 million people. This won't be possible without AI, without autonomous vehicles, autonomous agriculture, and everything that can be packed into a vertical structure. It's not conceivable. It'll all be backed by software and AI, and it will come faster than you think. He's already commissioned an architect to work on this. He's already talking to southern states about where the best plot of land is going to be to build this. So what can you do with AI in your product development cycle or in your delivery cycle? We can use data driven decision-making. Things like Google's AutoML can help us analyze the data we already have on our consumers and on our product capabilities and generate ideas for new product features that would be a better experience for our end user. We have enhanced user experiences through things like personalized recommendations or assistants like chatbots. I think most of us now resonate AI with chatbots after the last year. And then there are things like process optimization that in the past took a highly skilled expert that we can actually have AI do now with an algorithm. Things like predictive capabilities, demand forecasting. Do I need to scale the workload? So a lot of times in IT, we're being very reactive to what happens. On Black Friday, we kind of know now that we need 1,000 servers. But if you're launching a video game into a new market, you don't know if there's going to be 10,000 users or 100 million users that launch on this platform. The predictive analytics could actually be looking at that usage in real time, using data from Splunk and other systems you already have, and then making a decision to say, hey, we're going to start projecting a forecast for more servers or more capacity or capability ahead of the demand curve. It can also give you a competitive advantage in the market. As you'll see in the next few slides, most of the best products we consume today are using AI. I have Wise cameras at home. It automatically tells me if my pet was detected, my vehicle, if somebody that it doesn't know in the family shows up, all of these things, and I get alerts to my phone as I'm traveling.
All right, so let's go into some use cases for AI. So most of us here are probably users of Netflix or Amazon, maybe both. And we probably all have had firsthand experience with how powerful their recommendations can be. Whether it's being on Netflix and getting recommended the latest TV show, or maybe you're on Amazon and you end up buying the new home improvement tool that you were not originally shopping for. These product recommendations are what keep us coming back for more, and they keep us hooked on their platforms. Both Netflix and Amazon are using AI to analyze our habits and our behaviors and preferences with them, and then make these powerful recommendations to us.
So as I was mentioning before, if you think about what Tesla's done to the automotive industry, you now have an IoT device rolling down the road with thousands of sensors backed by AI. They get smarter every time they ship a software update. That allows things like autonomous driving, and you're seeing now that proliferate across the auto industry. You're seeing innovations at all major auto manufacturers that are trying to keep up with what Tesla kind of innovated and brought to market. That leads to a number of things around costs, challenge traditional automakers to increase efficiency. So you'll see this both on the product delivery side, but also in the manufacturing side, right? We've shipped tons of sensors that aren't being consumed by AI algorithms yet that need to improve manufacturing process. Another use case here is Autodesk just released their Fusion 360 product. So if I'm an engineer working on an automobile product these days, so let's say the engine, and I've got an issue with the manifold that doesn't fit into the frame or whatever, I can actually highlight that portion of my engineering document and let AI suggest a better design than I could have done in probably 80 hours of work as a human being. So they're able to iterate much, much quicker on these complex designs within physical engineering as well.
Within the healthcare industry, AI has forever changed how we go about medical imaging diagnostics for things such as X-rays, CT scans, and MRIs. And in the healthcare space, AI is being used to analyze these images, and then it's detecting diseases more accurately and more efficiently than we have historically done, manually in the past. So to put this in perspective, typically doctors or healthcare professionals are reviewing these images manually, and they're counting the good cells or the bad cells to ultimately make a cancer diagnosis or determine if a treatment's working or not. As you can imagine, this process is prone to human error. And this is where companies like Path AI have emerged as early AI adopters in this space, who are using artificial intelligence and machine learning to look at higher resolution images and repeat these scans more rapidly than we've historically done before. And they can repeat this process more efficiently and accurately than we can as humans. Financial institutions are also leveraging AI. And similar to Amazon and Netflix, I feel like we all probably have firsthand experience with how they're using AI. I know I certainly do. When you're going to use your credit card, just to find out that your bank has been, monitoring your transaction data, and they're suspecting suspicious activity, and then they block your card.
I just went to Cabo last week and went to do a travel update on my Bank of America card, and it said no update was necessary. They're using AI to actually determine where I'm at in the world as I'm making transactions. And as long as my contact information is good, they'll text me if there's a problem. A lot of us have probably experienced that.
This is just one example of how they're using AI, and an example of where you might not realize that that's AI at work when it happens to you. So they're using it to detect, fraudulent transactions, as well as assess things like credit risk.
So manufacturing, as I highlighted with the opposite side of the product side of the Tesla, is an area that I think we're going to see tons of advancement in actually consuming the hardware technology that was sold in the last decade through easier to consume AI. So the biggest thing that happened this year with generative AI is kind of an evolution in AI. I would say it's the second generation of AI wave. The first generation was very, very hard, and I myself participated in it in 2013, building a new application I was taking to market that would be a social networking app for wine enthusiasts. But to compete, I had convinced myself I needed a bottle scanner. To build a bottle scanner, I had to download Google's open source TensorFlow. Might have been a different name at the time. But basically learn how to become a data scientist, train the model on wine bottles so that it could actually detect a wine bottle, and then build another model and train it on how to detect a label. And then from there, a bunch of other stuff like OCR recognition. Very, very complex, very time consuming, months of development to get a very small feature out that was honestly table stakes in my mind. My innovations were much more on the social side of the YNAB. But in manufacturing, you've already seen it. A couple examples of customers we're working with. We've got a customer we're prototyping with right now that's a battery manufacturer. And so they ship their batteries to a specific industry, semis, moving goods across the United States and across the world. And the problem with that is if a battery goes belly up as you're in the middle of a transport, you could have an entire shipment of goods go bad if you have refrigerated goods, or it could take much longer to get to your destination, which causes consumer problems. And so they came to us with that problem. We helped engineer an IoT sensor that can be manufactured and help them build the AI algorithms underneath that will detect when that battery will fail for a number of reasons and alert the driver so that they can do maintenance before that failure occurs. Another one, we had a pharmacy customer, 3-tier distributor of pharmacy drugs right before the COVID pandemic happened that had pivoted their business model. Instead of waiting for the order and shipping the drugs to the doctors, they were putting machines in the clinic, like a vending machine. They came to us on their 3rd generation and said, how do we do this better, more efficiently? We helped them get off the proprietary technology, but where we innovated was really at the machine learning layer so that the user experience would be better. Instead of pulling syringes out of a machine you have to learn how to use, we could take an appliance that they're used to using in the hospital or clinic setting that has drawers, use cameras and machine learning vision to detect what they're taking. And so you'll see this now if you go through airports in the self-service checkout, right? I just did it actually in my last travel trip. You walk in, they scan your phone, you walk out with what you want, you get a text receipt, right? Same technology. That's all AI and machine learning and vision, which is probably the furthest along in this category and the easiest to consume. Practical adoption of AI. So why the rest of it's not so easy. I told the story about how I built my own app. And so if you look at a traditional model, that's how it's done. You have to learn all the frameworks, download the software, label all your data, and then give it that one use case that you really want it to nail. And for a lot of us sitting in this room, we don't even have enough data to train that one use case. Mine was machine learning at the time. It just wasn't as easy to do as it is today, so I had to do all the training. But yours is probably specific to your industry, right? It might be assessing financial data. It might be assessing behavior data in a retail product that you're delivering to your customers. In the past, that takes a data science team. It takes an army of engineering and a mountain of data that you need to go through and label. And so this can take 6 months, it can take a year, it can take longer, depending on what you're trying to build. So things like text generation, summarization, info extraction, QA, and chatbots, they were all separate models that we're building, as well as very purpose-built ones, right? Like building the FICO score to determine your borrower risk or credit rating. Thanks to generative AI and the idea of a large language model, we've indexed tons of data, and we now have out the other side of that what's called a foundational model. And so you heard Audrey drop that a little bit earlier. You might not have picked it up, but a foundational model is one that's been pre-trained on a large corpus of data. Now, as an engineer, I don't have to be a data scientist. I can take that foundational model. I can use Google, AWS, Azure, any NVIDIA, Intel, any of the stacks that I want that my team prefers for AI and develop the fine-tuning on that model. So what happens is you take the pre-trained model, so if we're looking at text generation, but we want to do it specific to, let's say, the battery manufacturing industry that I was talking about, that text generation will get more and more accurate with more context data that I supply to it and the more examples that I can give it. And so it does a fairly good job about generating general content for copy, but if you want to get hypersensitive on what you're generating, you have to train or fine-tune the model. And most of what we'll be doing is info extraction or customized context chatbots, right? Ones that actually understand the business sector you're in, they understand the jargon, they know the 3-letter acronym that may be also a technology acronym, and it doesn't get confused and say the wrong thing to your customer when talking to them or your partner. That's going to be due to fine-tuning that your engineering team does to that model. Thankfully, you have a partner that can help you at every layer of this journey. So AI sounds simple. We're seeing lots of companies have great success with it. And actually, what feels like everything is overnight as these successes are happening, but it's really complex. And if you're in a setting where you can't or your company won't allow you to put your data in the cloud and do this training using cloud systems, then you have an infrastructure problem to solve, right? You need to get GPUs. We're partnered with all of them to help you with that. The next problem you're going to have is data science, right? Have you organized your data, labeled your data? Are your applications in the right form to get the data that you need out into that lake? We can help with that layer as well, and you'll hear from speakers on that one specifically, on the data track. MLOps is the next thing. So as we talked about in the past, this acceleration of product delivery really happens through the automation, and we were hand coding and manually doing these processes before. With MLOps, it's no different. We had a customer developing a mobile app, changing the experience. So we've all probably used Amazon in this room or something similar in e-commerce. You go and select a category, then you do a search, right? It's very old world type experience. The new experience they're building is you scroll the product, and as you get more interested in items on the page, the algorithm's changing the page constantly. So it's similar to how your Instagram works, right? But in a shopping setting. So if I'm looking for a red prom dress, all I start to see is red prom dresses, right? Until I make a different selection. Their problem was it took them 2 weeks to rev their algorithm because they were manually snapshotting disks, manually deploying everything. And so we helped them build a fully automated MLOps pipeline to version that, to put the right data in with the model, and to know exactly what was happening when the experiments were occurring, and to do that in real time. So they moved from a couple weeks to a few hours to run an experiment on GCP, I think, at the time. So we had an idle cluster sitting there. It wasn't costing them anything while they weren't running experiments, but when they needed to run an experiment, it would automatically spin up and run that for them. The next layer we can definitely help you with is PaaS integration. So the other thing is, don't jump to AI if you're not doing the other things well in your business. If your apps are legacy and you can't get the right data out of it, you can't label the data, focus on that problem, right? You have a data problem or you have an application architecture problem. As you solve those problems and you start to get to the point where you can consume AI in a specific setting to create IP for your company, then we can get you help with the PaaS layers and connecting it all together. And the last layer being, there's lots of stuff you can buy out of the box. Salesforce is working on AI. SAP is working on AI. Also partners of ours, right? That we can help you get the right software and enable those products. Copilot from Microsoft, if you haven't heard about that, stop by the Microsoft booth and chat with them about it. Lots of new AI built in so that you don't have to go learn ChatGPT. You can stay within your office workflows and leverage those capabilities. For your engineers, Copilot helps with coding, right? So it's an automatic coding, pair coding AI assistant. Challenges that slow adoption. So first off, I think most people in the room said they're throwing around the ideas, but they don't really have a strategy yet. That's the number one thing, is how will you use AI? And so we're talking about AI in two terms right now. We're talking about this idea of generative AI, which when you looked at the statistics we provided, that's really going to help you accelerate things that you're doing. So things that you could apply RPA to, generative AI can help with. Things that are repetitive tasks, you can use that technology for. Generating marketing copy, writing new code, translating SQL code to Oracle P-SQL code, lots of tasks that your engineering force or your workforce is already doing. You can just accelerate the amount of time it takes for them to do that, as well as the amount of capacity you need on that team, right? 10 engineers can do as much as 20 engineers, that type of thing. The first thing you'll need to do is make sure that your company has a good understanding of what business value you can drive using AI. The productivity conversation is pretty easy, but how do you apply it to your own products, right? What will you put AI behind in your portfolio of products to help? That's something that we can help with, and I think at the end we'll give you a few options on that. But we need to get your executive level and your management level aligned on that and build a strategy to do that. The ML operations capabilities, lack of tooling, right? It's a complicated thing to do, and I think most of you all are still on a DevOps journey, if that's something that you adopted, right? DevOps and automation to deploy systems. We're now saying learn this MLOps thing. Very similar, right? Different tool set, different stack, same idea. And then finally, data readiness. If you don't have good data, then you won't be able to actually leverage those foundational models and then take your context data and fine tune them to do what you want. So focus your energy on getting the data and getting it in the right format before you focus on building the model that you wouldn't be successful in trying to do.
All right, hopefully we've got some Spider-Man fans out there. As wise Uncle Ben once said, with great power comes great responsibility, and I know you heard